Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Rise and Talent Talkers. This episode is hosted by myself, Becca. I'm also joined today by AJ. Today, we're going to be interviewing racing driver Maisy Creed. Hi, Maisy, how are you?
Good, thank you.
To kick things off, let's step away from the racetrack for a second. You've had a whirlwind, I would say, in the last few months in terms of the media spotlight. But when you aren't wearing a race helmet or aren't doing schoolwork, how does a normal day off look like for Maisy Creed?
Um, Honestly, well, right now I'm in the middle of my GCSEs, so a lot of my spare time is focused on revising for that, and also I've just recently got a simulator at home, so I spend all of my time on that really, and then just kind of exercise, and I've started running, just kind of trying to get as much out of that as I can really.
Amazing. I know that obviously, especially with GCSEs in the mix, I know that when I did them, it's a very stressful time. So I just want to say, obviously, best of luck for
Thank you.
doing them. I hope you achieve what you want to achieve.
Thank you.
Hi, Maisy. So forget your GCSEs for a second. Stop the worry. I want you to look back to November 2025. You stood on the podium at the PF International Circuit. It's the first female driver to win in its 30-year history. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very
Given the legendary F1 names who have raced on that grid, Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris, George Russell, how's the weight of that history? Is it fully sunk in yet?
I think so because I never really I didn't think I understood it at first, but I've got quite a lot of media attention from it just because I'm the first female to win it, and it feels good because I can be kind of paving the way for other girls my age or younger.
And that's really good to hear. Obviously, the junior grids in the karting championship are notoriously aggressive. I know that myself, and they're very unforgiving.
Mm.
Now you're on the step of moving up to potential formula racing right after winning this. How does your fighting style change and your driving style and things like that? How do they have to adapt to handle the heavier and more complex machinery?
Well, um, I've spent a few days at Chris Dittman Racing on their sim, and one of the main things that they always say to me is that I'm a very smooth driver, and that really worked out for me in karting because they're quite small, so you kind of have to deal with them quite delicately. But in cars, they're just kind of trying to teach me to brake more aggressively and stuff. So I'm definitely having to change my driving style.
I suppose it is a big step up from going to karting, going to big four wheelers, Formula racing.
Mm.
So I get the pressure and things like that.
So you did, for anyone who doesn't know, featured in a prominent BBC News article tackling a massive elephant in the room regarding how incredibly expensive motorsport is for a young driver trying to work their way up the motorsports ladder is. So my question to you here is, how difficult is it to balance the mental focus needed for racing, um, but also regarding the commercial pressure of constantly hunting for sponsors?
I think the honestly the main thing for me right now is the budget issue because we've come out of karting. Obviously, that is still ridiculously expensive, but formula racing especially is just such a big step up. um Obviously in the driving style but also in cost. So right now we're just trying to get testing budget, and that's just quite a hard thing to do. um but also obviously the goal would be to get testing budget and to get a few race days in this year. So that's the goal at the minute.
Obviously, you share the same beliefs as us within financial inclusivity within motorsport. We all get that it's very expensive. So, if you had the power to change one thing about the financial structure of motorsport, more to leaning towards junior motorsport, right this instant, in the click of a finger, and to make it fairer and more talent over budget, what would it be?
I'm not really sure. I think the whole cost is kind of spread across loads of different things, but when I was in karting, it was called the karting tax. and everything was just like way priced up from what it should be. And I think there's so many talented drivers that just don't get a chance to show people what they can do. And like people that are less fortunate than me, even, that they just don't get a chance to show what they can do because of the budget issues. So I just kind of guess, and team fees as well, they're crazy. So I think just lowering all of that.
I'm very happy that obviously you shed light on that. I think that although it's a very well known fact that motorsports is expensive in even in grassroots type of motorsport, people don't really grasp the extent to which it affects people. So I'm very glad you shone light on that. So as you mentioned, you've been doing some sim testing with Chris Dittman Racing. What has been, would you say, your biggest eye opener for when transitioning your real world karting inputs into a high end single seater simulator?
I think, as I said earlier, like braking, because I'm not sure if people will know what this is, but brake trail, kind of like how hard you press the brake and when you get off it. Right now, I'm just kind of a bit too gentle, a bit too soft with it, but you kind of have to really press it and then let off straight away to kind of carry the speed through the corner as best you can. So that's my main focus right now.
So you are currently going through a holistic driver development program with Motorsport UK. Am I right in saying?
That's the plan for my college.
Okay.
So that should be starting in September.
Okay. So well, in regards to that, how much would you say this program could reshape your day-to-day routine outside the cockpit when it comes to athlete prep?
I think the main thing about the program is who they introduce you to, and it will be really good for profile. Also, what I've been told a lot from people who are already there is because they go on the sim in front of everyone, and they say that that is, quite like there's a lot of pressure to start with, to perform in front of people, but then they get more used to it, so their driving style improves, when they're not in front of people.
So in March, you were extremely lucky. You and your dad were both extremely lucky to receive a communication from a big team, um, invite you to the factory to discuss your F1 potential F1 Academy future. So I want you to take us into that day. What did it feel like walking through the factory doors? How um, like how thrilling was it?
It was really cool because it was 2 days, and it was an eye opener because it was straight after an F1 weekend, so everyone was there, all the cars were there, and we there was two different sets of things that they tested me on. Part of it was like mental and how quick my reaction times and stuff were, and then another part was a physical test, which is they did a VO2 max test. I'm sure everybody will have seen videos of that, and it was obviously really hard. Um, but yeah, it was good, and we got to meet the team boss, and yeah.
That's amazing. It sounds very opportunistic for you. I know that when people get those opportunities, especially for the first time, it can be, I guess, overwhelming, but in a very good way.
Yeah.
It can almost open up like a lot of doors when you get to speak to certain individuals. So
Mm.
I'm very glad you obviously got to enjoy that.
Yes.
During that first visit, you did go undergo initial physical and cognitive evaluations. I know you kind of just touched up a little on it
Mm.
there. Drivers often keep these kind of details to themselves, but could you give us an idea of what a cognitive test actually looks like for a junior driver?
There's quite a lot of what I actually did there, like just online. And there's, the test where they have the lights and
Hmm.
they all go out. They actually did that.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and you had to, like, they gave you like a little wheel, and you had to click into first gear, like when the lights went out. And then there was a big screen, and you had to you had to tap like the moving objects, and it's I think the main goal for it was to test how many things you could handle at once. And then for the physical stuff, it was on the bike with a VO2 max, and then just basically weightlifting.
So they must have really loved you because they've asked you to return them to the factory for more intensive stress tests while you actually on the simulator. So you must feel very lucky with that. So how do you mentally prepare to keep, most importantly, heart rate down for that? But also keep your lap times consistent while the engineers are still deliberately putting you under those high stress conditions.
Well, I'm spending loads and loads of time on the sim to try and prepare myself. And then I think my time at Chris Dittman is preparing me for that as well. So hopefully I can perform well.
Hopefully, indeed. In terms of the F1 Academy test that you have coming up, are you looking at this test as the ultimate launch pad for a 2027 race seat?
That is the goal. And for the 2025 test, it's not like a written thing that the top 5 finishers get in to the F1 Academy the next year, but that is how it worked out last year. So I'm just trying to get as much on track testing as I can in an F4 car to prepare myself, because a lot of the girls going there will have done like 40 days. So I'm definitely going to be on the back foot. But if I can get there and if I can be up at the top, then that really sets me well for the next year.
So before I ask my next question, I want to say a massive congratulations and a massive good luck to you. Not very many people get this level of opportunity to even think about racing in F1 Academy. I know certainly for sure me, Becca, and the entire Rising Star Academy will be behind me on saying this. You completely deserve this. The best of luck for it. So to wrap all this up, I want you to imagine there's a 10 or 11-year-old watching you having fun around the indoor kite track. And they know all your journey, they know all about you. What the one piece of advice that you give her, what people are telling her that it's impossible to make it to an F1 factory or make it into the big teams or motorsport in general?
I honestly think if you, from a young age, if you focus too much on I need to be doing this now, or like I'm behind, there's so much time. And honestly, the main thing is just have fun, because if you're not enjoying it, then there's no point really.
Very true. Obviously, kind of, I just want to bring it back a little bit to that BBC that where you attended the BBC. A lot of young girls would be looking at that not only as a young girl who feels kind of, as you say, maybe on the back foot or a little isolated, maybe from the motorsports community, and maybe even doubts a potential future in motorsports for herself. But obviously, you're in the category of people who have felt firsthand what the extent of the expense of motorsports can do to a person. So I think it's very important that you're someone who is kind of vocal about that. You know, you're not someone who hides away from the fact that both things can put you right at the very back and can make you feel isolated or can make you feel like maybe that this might not be something that you're able to achieve just because it seems so far out of reach. So having someone like you to kind of represent that and to be someone to look up to, I think is a very great thing. And I'm glad that that young girls will have you to look up to in that regard.
Me too, because honestly, like when I was younger, I really, really did not believe in myself, just because it's like, especially when I was younger in it, there was very little females in it. So I didn't really have anyone to compare myself to and be like, that's where I want to be. Like, you know, like there was Abby Pulling, who I mainly looked up to, but she is quite a lot older than I was. So I'm hopefully being a person that younger girls can look up to and kind of compare themselves to me.
You're very much right when you say that there weren't a lot of people, unfortunately, to kind of look up to. I attended a race in 2019 at Snetterton, and every single race I was hearing these men being announced and what team they're racing for. And then there was one mention of a woman, and I remember seeing her car did have a bit of pink on, so I could kind of recognize her as she came around. And I didn't know her. I'd never heard of her name before, but I was instantly transfixed by the fact that for the first time I was seeing a female racing
Yeah.
motorsports, and that is kind of a very special moment. As you say, as much as obviously you've got people like Abby Pulling, I think that you were one of the first people that I know who's in that kind of, I'd say, unique position. And so yeah, to have people look up to, I think going forward will be a real big inspiration for young girls. I did want to bring back one more question for you. We love asking this question. We're always eager to ask it. If you could recommend anyone to us, one person to interview next, who would it be?
Ooh. Anybody in motorsport?
Yes.
I think maybe Alba Larson, because she's quite similar to my age and she's doing really well at the minute. So I think she'd be a good one.
Do you know what? I know that me and Anthony were thinking the same thing, that Alba Larson for us is definitely someone who we would love to have on, especially I really hope I don't get this wrong, that she has the Girls International Racing Club, I think it is. Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously I've recently started following that myself. I wasn't actually too aware it existed. I kind of knew of its existence, and I know she's done a lot on it social media wise recently. So I've kind of really gotten into it and really tried to stay up to date as much as I can with it, because I think it's an absolutely amazing initiative. So definitely to have her on, I think me and AJ will have to speak to the team and see if we can find a way to get her on.
Yeah, I will. I met her a few weeks ago, and she's very sweet. So I'm sure you would enjoy it.
I'm sure we would. Well, that concludes our interview with Maisy Creed. It's been an absolute pleasure getting all those different insights about what it's like to especially be a junior driver and getting all these different types of opportunities. Thank you very much, Maisy, for being able to join us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, AJ, as always, for joining me on this interview. And yeah, if you guys would like to stay up to date with all the other episodes that we do, be sure to like, follow, comment, subscribe, all the above, and be sure to catch us in the next one. Thank you very much.